Hey, we're back. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. So, tip for Google Hangouts if you're using it: don't ever click the people's faces. If you're the one controlling it, down there on the bottom right, it shows the faces of the people as they're talking back and forth. If you click one, then it won't naturally swap anymore. You have to manually make people big or small. And I hit the wrong button while I was doing that and stopped the whole broadcast. So anyway, so we were talking about the tech stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about the tech stuff, but what else is on it? That's really all to say about it. But it's just interesting to me how, you know, everybody goes kind of like lemmings to the sea to the new thing. And then after a while, that's no longer the new thing. And they go over here. But you can't do that for your main operating back end of your business, because you'll be constantly stirring your staff and yourself, trying to arrange and recast everything in the back end of your business. So you need to have that pretty solid and ongoing, or at least in my opinion, you do.
I agree. You can't be redoing your foundation every other day.
No.
One thing you were talking about last time was about stories and how you wish people wouldn't spend 30 minutes of their webinar talking about a story. I had something come up where I was just in a conversation with somebody recently, and they were telling me story after story after story after story. And I felt completely overwhelmed, and I started to just like glaze over, and I couldn't keep up with it. And so later on that night, I actually woke up at like 4 in the morning and had this epiphany about why I could not process so many stories. And I realized that I was feeling like Lucy on the conveyor belt. You know that episode?
Yeah, the candy where she's just eating the chocolate and eating the chocolate. Yeah.
Because when I hear a story, I want, okay, what's the meaning? What are my takeaways? Why am I listening to this story? If I'm going to store it in my mind, I've got to cross-reference it to subjects, topics, principles, meaning. I don't know. I'm just the way my brain works. And so when this person was giving me story after story after story, I just couldn't do it fast enough.
There was nowhere to pin it into your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought of this. It's something I use with people with book writing, but I realized it should be used probably anywhere you're going to use stories, and I call it a story sandwich. So, for example, you start with a principle or something that's going to make them know why what's in it for them to listen to you share the story. So, like an example I posted in my product creation Facebook thing this week was, you know, sometimes when your class is not filling, it may not be about you. It may be for some other reason, and let me tell you why. Okay. Then I told a story of how my product creation class for this last week, which is an intensive class, I spent a lot of time on it, was not filling. I couldn't get anybody in it. I had people interested, but it was never the right time for anybody. And so I ended up changing it to be self-paced with some one-on-one with me and the live one-on-one masterminding calls. So it's a combination of them being able to start anytime they want, work at their own pace, but still get the individual support. Ended up selling 4 of them right off the bat in the week doing that. And but what I didn't know is that I would have to spend several hours Wednesday and Friday. My son, we found some kind of anomaly with his heart, just a routine physical. And I was in imaging centers, and I couldn't have taught that class, you know?
Right.
And so the takeaway, the 2 takeaways I got is sometimes when something's not filling or something's not selling, it could either be that you need to tweak your product or offering in some way to cater it better to your audience or market it a different way. I also changed up my sales page some when it wasn't filling. And then it could be that there's something unforeseen that you're being prepared for. There's something that you just don't see that will work out for the best in the end. Right. So right there is a story sandwich. You start with the principle.
Right.
Give the story, then you give some takeaway principles. Right. Then somebody has something where to put that story. Right. But if you're just rambling.
Right, and that's called anchoring. You know, whenever you teach a principle, you do have to find a way to anchor it in people's minds. And good speakers will anchor the points that they make too. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. Otherwise, it's just content that is not grounded or anchored into anything that is meaningful to that person. You have to, everybody loves to hear stories, And stories are a great way to write and to teach and to speak, but you have to make them meaningful to the receiver. You can't just be all up in your own head telling story after story and not translating it and giving the other person a way to hook into it and make it meaningful. So yeah, I agree with you. I like that idea of story sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I hope his son is okay. Or is all his testing done?
we're going to a cardiologist on Wednesday. I have a feeling it's mitral valve prolapse, which runs rampant in my family. And if it's going to have something wrong, that's the most benign thing that I can probably think of with the heart.
Right. Well, I'll say a prayer for him then.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I think he'll be all right. Okay. The other subject that I don't know, should I give an update on my men and money thing?
Of course. We all want to hear about Marnie's men and money, right? I mean, I have one man and one money. So I actually have one man and many sources of.
You got it mastered. See, I'm still trying to figure it out. You got a good man and you got the money coming in. Evidently, I had money men issues. So I did this affirmation thing where I created a list of all the false, not healthy beliefs I had about men and money. And then I turned them around and made them into positive affirmations. And I recorded them of me saying them. And I put Baroque music to the background of it, like people do with their life vision type stuff.
Yeah. And
I've been listening to it a few times a day. And so I'm starting to see that like the man that I'm dating right now, I'm on to a new one. So serial dating, fits a lot more of what I mean, is the way he treats me is very respectful and values me and very honoring. And, you know, he's a really good man, you know, higher caliber than any of the others. And he even said something to me one night that was almost exactly verbatim an affirmation, one of my affirmations about how this person would treat me. You know, I'm not saying I don't know where it's going or anything, but at least I'm broadcasting the right channel. So that's kind of interesting. And then as I've been doing the money stuff, then, you know, my product sales and stuff are going up as well. So cool. Anyway,
that's cool. You could probably sell that little MP3.
I am going to. I'm going to turn it into a list of like a PDF and an audio. I need to get some royalty-free music to put on the background of it. Yeah. And I'm thinking of doing lots of little affirmation videos and selling them for like $2.99 or something. You know, just little.
I've thought about doing that too for mindset stuff. You and I never lack for ideas. What we look for is the time to implement all those ideas and try to figure out which of the ones will actually monetize the best and the fastest, whether it's a $2.99 thing or with a lot of volume, or whether it's a $4,000 thing with less volume. You know, you really have to weigh all of that and figure it out, because you don't have time to create all that comes out of your fertile brain. I don't either. And that's, I think, the curse of a lot of entrepreneurs. In fact, I was just working with a lady last night. She sent an email, and I was kind of looking at it because I'm going to work with her here later on today after the Peep show is over. And she's like, after all these years, she can't succinctly tell me who she works with and what it is that she does. And more, I just grab around that like a python. I'm like, if you don't have that, the rest of your business, you're going to struggle. You've got to know what it is that you offer people and who specifically do you offer it to. And, you know, all this thing about, well, any entrepreneur that does that doesn't cut it. You've got to really narrow it down. So I've been thinking about that a lot, because then I also, and you also, have to keep like a pretty narrow focus. There are a lot of things that we could do for a lot of different people, but who is it that we really want to serve, and where is our sweet spot in terms of the time that we put into our business and the income that we generate? So I know I've thought about that whole affirmation thing. There's so many people who need confidence, and the name of my business is Confident Marketer. And I've thought about doing those little, like tiny little affirmation things, or just podcasts that are inspirational. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But let me know if you decide to do those. I think it's cool. And you know, this whole thing about affirmations and visioning and having kind of that clear channel in your mind of what it is that you want to create. I have forever and ever and ever been a huge component of doing, proponent, I should say, not component, of doing vision boards. And I've done dozens, if not hundreds of them in my life. And when we got back to Nashville a week or two ago, Bill and I really decided we were going to start cleaning out and winnowing down again, because we have paper around here, you know, we haven't used in a while. So I ran across this folder where I did this soul collage workshop with a gal over in Knoxville when we still lived there. And I made 2 little collages that were about the size of, you know, small, like maybe 5 by 7 or something. And one of them, every single thing on that, I haven't looked at that in 5, 6 years. Every single thing on that collage has come to pass. Every single thing. And I haven't even, I forgot that I had done the card, to be honest. Now the other one, there were 2 that I did that day, and the other one, not so much. And I kind of remember the day I was doing them, I was always kind of dissatisfied with the other one. I was trying to make something that was 3D and would come out from the card, and I don't know, I messed around with it. It was more about the technique than about what was going into the card. The other one was just a flat card, and I put all these different little things onto it and fitted it together kind of like a puzzle. And that one, the one that's not 3D, the flat one, I still love what I made, and I hadn't even looked at it in 6 years. I mean, I came home and stuck it in a drawer, and I've never looked at it, and I dug it out after all. We've moved, and it came here in a box, and I unpacked the box, and now I'm going through all this paper. It's amazing to me, like, how it sets up your mind. Mm-hmm. And I see that in people. I mean, I see people who I can't work with who, no matter what you bring to them as a potential for them, they have some reason out of the gate that it won't work for them, or that it'll be too hard, or that it really wouldn't work, or that, well, it'll work for everybody else, but it won't work for me, or blah, 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 all that stuff. And I've learned that as much as those people need help, and as much as I would love to show them how open the world is to so much opportunity, they are just as hell-bent on not seeing the opportunity as I am hell-bent on wanting them to see the opportunity. And it's just like loggerheads, and I can't spend my time doing that. I have to find people who already know that they want to open themselves to that world. And so it's sad to me. I mean, it makes me cry. It really is a sad thing. But this whole thing about affirming what you're moving toward rather than affirming what you don't want, that's such a big mistake, to keep affirming what you don't want.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I've had similar things happen where I'll be going through filing things, and I'll find where I wrote down my goals, and stuff has happened that I haven't even thought about, you know, totally not even set the goal. It's almost the best kind that just come out of nowhere, and they, hey, I did that, you know?
I know. It's kind of fun, and I'm kind of like thinking about it right now because I like to do vision boards. I try to do one about quarterly, and usually I keep them up right behind my computer on my desk. With this particular one, because it was at a workshop and she handed everything to us in a folder after it was over, I just came home and stuck the folder somewhere, and I never did actually put them out. But I don't know if I've told the people who watch this show this story or not, but I had a vision board for 20 years that had a beach house on it. And knew I always wanted a house at the, you know, down on the Gulf somewhere. And then 4 years ago, when Bill and I started looking around down there, and we were looking for something really small and inexpensive because we just want to kind of dip our toe in it. And we saw this little neighborhood, and we went looking in this little neighborhood to see what was on the market. And it was on the canals that go out to the Gulf. So, you know, the tide came in and out, was right on the water. And we drove up to this one little dinky place that was almost no money. I mean, you could have bought it literally on a credit card. And we walked in, and it was dumpy and old and needed paint, but the hair stood up on the back of my neck because it looked exactly like what was on that vision board, what I had glued down 20 years ago. exactly like in the inside. And I turned around to Bill and he looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, I just can't even believe this. We ended up buying that place. You know, we lived there for 2 winters and we sold it last May at a huge profit, made good money. And now we have another place that down there. But it was just amazing to me that I had been staring at that picture behind my desk for 20 years. And not the outside, but the inside looked exactly like what was on that vision board.
Wow.
That weird. That was weird to me. I mean, it kind of weirded me out.
Yeah.
You know?
Joanne Musa asked if either of us has used mind movies. I know when it very first came out,
Yeah.
I made one and I used it a little bit, but I didn't stick with it. Have you?
No, never used it.
Okay. I don't even know what was on that mind movie. I may already have it, and I just don't,
Yeah, it is amazing how, I mean, I think unconsciously you work toward what you really most want in your life, and you can encourage yourself toward that, or you can discourage yourself toward that. And it's important to have that encouragement, and it's important to have other people who will encourage you, which is the whole reason, you and I both coach people. I mean, I like encouraging people toward what they want to create in life. And some people just refuse the encouragement. And I've always wondered why that is. And I've always wondered if that's changeable. I don't know.
Some people see obstacles while other people see opportunities. And it's just the way they're wired. I don't know.
I see obstacles too. I'm very, I'll look at something in business or I'll look at something in my own life and I'll be like, well, this is what's in the way. And then I can make a choice. I'm either not willing to remove that obstacle or I'm willing to remove that obstacle. And I think sometimes it's deep-seated and you really have to have help with like energy work or what you do, healing, simple heat. No, what's it called?
Simply Healed energy work.
I was going to say simple healing, simply healed, or things that can push those energetic barriers. You have to be willing to have that stretched around you so that you can let go of those, become to a place where you're willing to let go of whatever that barrier is. Yeah. I mean, I had to have that. Somebody has to hold that for you sometimes. When I first met Frank, the PT guy I work with in Florida, I was in a wheelchair and chances were I was never going to get out of that wheelchair. And I already had been sitting in that wheelchair suffering for close to 6 months. And my mindset was, I'd like to get out of it, but the pain's really bad and I don't know if I'll be able to get out of it. It was him who stuck me up on parallel bars and made me hang on and said, I'm going to sit here and you're going to stand there and hang on to those parallel bars and we're going to see if you can move your foot just 1/4 of an inch. And if you can do it, I can help you walk again. He wasn't really willing to give up. A couple of different times, I would be like about every 2 or 3 minutes, nothing's going to move. I can't do this. And after about, almost 20, 25 minutes of standing there, I had sweat pouring off of me. I managed to move my foot just a tiny little bit. And he saw it. And he was like, you've got nerve endings. We can do this. I would have given up. He had to hold that frame for me. Yeah. He had to sit there and care enough to hold that frame for me. And until I could see the frame and I could start believing that it was possible. And that's the curse of people like you and I. We see the potential for others faster than they see it for themselves. But they've either got to come along and see it or you have to leave them in the dirt because you can't pull the train. It wears you out to pull the train.
Yeah, they have to want it. You can't
want it. Yeah, and at some point within them, they have to believe it's possible. And sometimes people will move, and sometimes people won't.
Yeah,
I know. It's sad.
Yeah, I know when I was sick, I was in bed for like 4 days with this horrible flu thing. Let me unplug this so it hushes. The 4th day, I could barely get up to take my kids. I almost passed out taking my kids to school. I come back and I was just depressed, completely depressed about everything.
Yeah.
And I texted my friend Luana and I was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't do it. And so she got on the phone with me and she's like, it's because you're so sick. Everything is hopeless when you're so sick,
Yeah.
And so she kind of, so just get better. But I was in a funk after that. It took me a while to get out of that funk. And I think one of the main things that got me out of it was making that affirmation audio.
Yeah.
I started listening to it and I thought, yeah, 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 you know, and I had turned my brain to a negative channel.
Yeah.
And I needed it switched to a positive one.
Yeah. And just also to say, Marnie, that we all go through cycles like that. I'm with you. When I'm sick, I get real, just depressed. It's gray outside. We came home. Well, Wednesday will be 2 weeks ago that we've been back in Nashville, and it has been gray and raining every single day. And I hate it because I'm used to sunny Florida and I love the sunshine and I want to wake up in the morning and see that full sun and wake up and get busy. I'm into it. Don't like it. I don't like it. And I can feel myself starting to go, oh God, this is gray and damp and my joints hurt. And, we all go up and down in those cycles. We all have those biorhythms, our lives change. So you have to be cognizant to pull yourself out of it, but you also have to have some kind of support. And so I don't know, it's so part of it is self-responsibility and part of it is knowing that you can't do this alone. You can't run your life and run your business and all that alone. You just can't. It's complicated and you need somebody like a Luann to be able to say, it's just because you're sick, Marnie, you'll feel better.
Yeah.
Like I had to have Frank say, if this is really going to be a long shot and it's going to be a lot of excruciatingly painful work, but you know what? I see that this is possible, and you're sitting in that wheelchair or hanging onto these parallel bars, and you're not seeing that it's possible. But I'm telling you, it's possible. And I had to look at him, and in that moment, trust that what he said was right, and that I then had to become willing to take anything he did, any pain, in order to have what I have now.
Yeah. Now, if it had just been any Joe Blow off the street who'd said you can walk again, I mean, his credibility played into that too.
Yeah, his credibility was and is amazing. Yeah, yeah. So
cool. Well,
we're to the end of our time. We're sorry we cut you guys off and then had to jump back on again. But it's very easy. I was telling Marnie when she hit the off-air button, I saw it. And then she had to call me back, and I almost hit the decline instead of the answer button. There, everything is so close together, and it's so easy to hit the wrong button. So forgive us. We'll do better next time. But I think that's the only time we've taken ourselves off air when we didn't want to be off air.
I'll piece it together.
Yeah, you do that. Okay, well, we'll see you next time. And Marnie, I'm so glad that you're feeling better. And I'll be thinking about you and your son at the cardiologist. Hope everything goes well.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.